So Daniel, don't you think that this whole sales process is going ultimately is fixing the whole research part? I remember when I was like, I don't know, living in '90s, my friends were telling me, "Oh, we bought a new TV." Okay, so how do you find a new TV? Oh, I checked this website, this website, and then I have all these like comparison type of analysis, what these new TVs are doing. I think the same happens in B2B today. It's just, of course, way more sophisticated and faster process, but ultimately that's where it's going in terms of educating me as a someone who is thinking about buying everything about that before somebody calls that company and says, okay, look, I'm interested in your product. Why don't you convince me to buy? And that's where the seller comes in. Think about this as a runway, and then there's a last mile call, right? So I think that we're optimizing from runway in all these tools before somebody comes in with the last mile and says, okay, let me get you over the line, sign here. Do you agree, or you have a different opinion about that?
I disagree.
It's good that we disagree.
Yeah, like you've definitely got the research piece that plays a big part because it's not just the last mile element, but I can only relate to my own experience. You know, if I think about back in the day, like you said, if I look 5, 10 years ago when I was selling, we didn't have all the smart tools. It was a bit more of an old school model. It worked, but it was, a lot of the time I would just try and put a square peg in a round hole. What I mean by that is I'm trying to pitch a company that I'm just trying to convince, there's an appetite for my product. So I can still educate them, but it doesn't mean they're going to buy. And I think today we need to be a lot smarter because it's about now understanding, right? Who is the persona or industry or segment of customer that actually has a relevance to our product? Because, one thing that was always really helpful for me when I was selling back in the day was qualifying out as much as qualifying in, right? I want those, right? Because I don't want to waste time and energy on a customer that's not going to convert or doesn't see value, especially if I'm thinking big picture, because it's not just about new business, it's also about retention and growth, which I think is top of mind for every business at the moment. So for me, there's using AI and intelligence to educate the sales team and marketing team on who is the subset of customers that are actually the best fit for what you're trying to sell, that you can still educate or are in a position where you just need to kind of take them over the line and get them to that point of buying. So I think that's the part that can add a real advantage nowadays, rather than, like I said, back in my time, which was very much like, the spray and pray model without all of the fancy insights, right? So I think that's where we're going to see a lot of efficiencies. And I think that's why I believe as well, I think most business leaders, especially by 2030, have an appetite to kind of embed AI into their operating workflow, right? Into how they conduct sales and marketing activities, how they operate as a unit. So yeah, for me, that's, my take on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think also there is benefits to that more higher in the funnel educational sales approach or business development approach, especially in a larger, more technical offering, because that's how you learn. Like if you're not having those conversations, you're not learning. The other thing I would say is often potential customers don't know there's a product to fix the problem that they have. So like I think that when we talk about fighting the status quo, people are just going to keep doing what they're doing because they don't know that there's a product out there that might be able to help them. And are they ready to buy it right now? No. Can we use, AI and automation to get them up to date? Yes. But I also think it's kind of important to get to know a human earlier on in the process because I think that adds a lot of value. It's like, how do we have a sales team that focus more upper funnel that's not SDR, but educational and consultative? And then how do we have that go down where you have a closer? Those are different personalities too. Often, really good salespeople can do that all, but does it become something that's a little more educational and product oriented or product feedback oriented and down to the closer and negotiator?